Welcome back everybody to another episode of Direct Comparison. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at Volition's upcoming reboot to the Saints Row series, and see how it compares from a gameplay and content perspective to the most recently released Saints Row game, Saints Row the Third Remastered. Now, to be clear, Saints Row the Third is not technically the most recent mainline entry to the series. In fact, there's been two other entries since then, including Saints Row 4 and a standalone expansion called Gat Out of Hell. But as those two games are so wildly different from most other entries in this series, I felt it was more appropriate to stick with Saints Row 3 for this particular comparison, especially when considering just how much this upcoming reboot seems to take inspiration from it. For reference, I'll be playing Saints Row 3 Remastered on the PC, with the settings cranked up as high as possible at a native 4K resolution. However, for the newer game, I was only able to test a small sliver of the experience by means of a newly released character customization demo called The Boss Factory. With it, players can freely customize their own boss or playable character, and upload their creation to Volition's servers to be used later in the final release. And if you want to give this a try for yourself, you can download it now for free using the link that I provided in the description. Because of this demo's limited scope, I want to spend less time talking about the graphics and more about the gameplay features and various other mechanics. Though, I will be sure to follow this up at a later date with a full technical analysis when I get some hands-on time with the open world. Alright, so to kick this comparison off, let's first talk about the setting offered in each game. In Saints Row 3, players explore a sprawling urban playground called Steelport, which takes inspiration from modern American cities like New York, Pittsburgh, and Bridgeport. Because of this, Steelport is composed primarily of towering skyscrapers, large industrial zones, and rows of apartment complexes, all broken up by distinct districts with their own set of side missions and chaotic activities. It's a playground of pure mayhem, but one that's admittedly pretty tame by today's standards. There's very little terrain variety here, and despite being in a large city, there's not a lot of verticality in typical gameplay encounters, outside of a few mission-specific structures. The new Saints Row, on the other hand, aims to deliver a much more modern take on an open-world environment, going beyond the boundaries of the concrete jungle and including more natural environments to explore as well. This location, given the name Santo Leso, is inspired heavily by the American Southwest, mainly Las Vegas and its surrounding area, with lots of deserts, canyons, mesas, and the occasional small town. Like with Saints Row 3, Santo Leso is broken up into different districts, each with their own unique look and feel. Some of the districts already confirmed include Rancho Providencia, a sort of derelict rundown town that plays host to the Panteros gang, Monte Vista, a high-end residential area with lots of fancy hillside mansions and frequent parties hosted by the Deadly Idols, and the busy downtown area of Lakeshore, owned and operated by the corrupt Marshall Corporation. From what's been shown so far, Santo Leso certainly looks to be a much more interesting location to explore than Steelport, based on the variety alone. Though, how players interact with these worlds is arguably even more important, which brings us to our next topic, the core mission structure. Saints Row 3 is built on a traditional open-world format. There's main mission start icons placed on the map that you have to drive to, with some scripted action sequences to help progress the plot. And along with those are a bunch of smaller, less interesting side missions to expand on other specific aspects of the gameplay, like combat and driving. The goal of the game is to take control of the city for your gang, the Saints, by completing missions in each district, buying property, and fighting off other rival gangs on the street. The newer Saints Row game seems to follow the same basic premise, with a player working with their gang to build a name for themselves and take control of the city. However, missions are now tied more directly to the purchased businesses instead, giving the game world a more immersive feel as a result. Buying a disposal facility, for example, will unlock missions where you need to illegally dump toxic waste, while purchasing the Let's Pretend building will provide a base of operations to prepare heists, where you can serve as the getaway driver during a robbery. And of course, fan-favorite side missions like insurance fraud make a return as well, and can be accessed by purchasing the Shady Tokes business. By tying missions to businesses, players have more incentive to expand their empire outside of just earning extra money, and by attributing these businesses to specific districts, this newer game world seems to provide more character and personality to each of its locations, which in effect should make the world a bit more immersive. Moving on, we have the progression system. In Saints Row 3, progression is tied to XP, earned by contributing to the mayhem in the city. Large explosions and big gang wars are often great ways to rank up and unlock more powerful abilities. Then, using the cell phone, players can choose between a wide range of player upgrades across several different categories, allowing them to increase their stats to near superhuman levels, including options to disable fall damage, sprint infinitely without getting tired, or fire weapons without needing to reload. Oddly, the Saints Row Reboot feels a bit more restricted when it comes to this system. While progression and money are still used to unlock and purchase new skills and abilities, players can't use all of their unlocks at the same time. Active skills, for example, have to be selected from a list and equipped into one of 4 slots on a diamond. Passive perks, on the other hand, have more slots to make use of, but these tiers will slowly unlock as the player progresses through the game as well. My guess is that this was done to help ground Saints Row's gameplay a bit more, preventing players from turning into unstoppable superhumans within the first few hours. On the bright side, some of these new abilities featured do look like they can add a lot of fun new approaches to combat encounters not offered previously. Players can, for instance, attach grenades to enemies and toss them towards a group of hostiles, shoot from the top of a moving vehicle while in a prone position, roll from side to side to dodge attacks, and use their cars to sideswipe pursuers and deal extra damage. Players can also deploy a new wingsuit now to help soar across Santa Leos, and can even bounce off of nearby pedestrians for an extra boost. It's just as absurd as you'd expect from a Saints Row game, albeit with some slightly more modern touches. But the real standout feature that I actually was able to test out firsthand is the game's reworked customization system. Customization has always been key to the Saints Row franchise, and has greatly expanded over the years to allow players to tweak everything from their face, hair, and clothing, all the way to their sex appeal. In Saints Row 3, all the player customization options are made available to the player by various storefronts found throughout the open world. These stores are specifically themed around different styles of clothing, meaning one store might have expensive, flashy leather jackets, while another might have more casual wear. The player's base appearance, on the other hand, can only be changed via a special plastic surgeon store called Image as Designed. Here, players can tweak their character's body, face, hair, makeup, and other miscellaneous things like the character's voice and emotes. They can even make use of several different sliders to fine-tune the appearance of every part of their character's face, allowing them to mold the model into whatever the player wants. But some of the preset accessories, namely hair, are a bit limited. The new Saints Row game, however, aims to address this head-on, with far fewer restrictions, and a more streamlined character customization system overall. First, you're no longer stuck returning to a nearby store or headquarters just to swap your owned clothes or your appearance. All of that can be accessed right from the player's menus, even standing in the middle of the street. Additionally, the appearance customization sliders themselves are expanded a great deal to allow for greater freedom in design. Sex, for example, is no longer offered as an option to switch between, opting for a more neutral design, where players can modify their groin and chest size however they want. Players can also freely modify sides of the character's face individually if they want a less symmetrical look, and can even adjust multiple color tones for individual accessories like hair and clothing. In fact, this system is so robust that with all the unlocked clothing and accessories found in the game, you can really build any character that you want, from celebrities and pop culture icons to iconic video game characters. There's still a very cartoony vibe to these characters, but it's a massive improvement visually over the weirdly disproportionate and boxy designs of the characters in Saints Row 3, regardless of how much you try to adjust the scaling. But the Saints Row Reboot doesn't stop there. Customization is also available for other aspects of the game that previously were not expanded all that much. Weapons, for example, can now be fully customized with different attachments and unique skins and cosmetic accessories, as opposed to Saints Row 3 where you essentially just upgraded weapons through 4 tiers and that was it. Crib customization from the fan favorite Saints Row 2 also makes a bit of a return, as players can now customize their main headquarters or the church, and give it an updated facade, interior decoration, and tweak the appearance of AI gang members. Vehicle customization also returns, though from what's been shown, it only seems to have been marginally improved upon. The vehicle customization in Saints Row 3 was already pretty robust, with options to tweak the finish, interior, underglow, wheels, and body kit modifications. But the reboot does add more options to each of these categories to help flesh them out further. And with a much larger selection of different vehicle types to play around with, vehicle variety in general appears to be much greater. And that's pretty much all we have to go off of for the time being. Overall, the Saints Row Reboot looks to be taking things back to basics to some extent, ignoring the overt silliness of Saints Row 4 and Gat Out of Hell, in favor of the slightly more grounded, though still very silly, Saints Row III. There's a lot of things from that game that still feel recycled back into the fold, most notably this identical carjacking animation. Though I do appreciate many of the new quality of life improvements being incorporated as well, including the expanded combat maneuvers, customization options, and the much more intriguing open world environment. And while we didn't speak much about the visuals this time, I will say that from what I've seen so far, the Saints Row Reboot does look to be an improvement graphically as well, with higher polycount character models, much better dynamic lighting effects, and some nice particle density. But again, I'll save my full analysis for when I get some more proper hands-on time with the game. So, what do you guys think so far? Does Volition's reimagined Saints Row experience do enough different from the previous entries like Saints Row 3? Or do you feel there's something missing? Let me know in the comment section. Also, just a reminder, the Boss Factory demo is available to download and play around with today, so be sure to give that a shot. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this posted every week.